In this video, I'll be explaining the entire procedure of checking if the given grammar is LN1 parser or not, constructing the predictive parsing table, and showing the sequence of moves made by the parser on the given string. So here, the problem statement says the same, and we have we know the value of W. The given string here is ID plus ID star ID, and all these are different productions in the grammar given. So here I've written down the steps required to construct the LL1 parser. So the first step says that construct any string W for given grammar. Here W is specified. So we need to obtain its corresponding LMD along with its parse tree. So our first step is to obtain LMD for given string W is equal to ID plus ID star ID and obtain its corresponding parse tree. So let's start from E derives LMD TE dash. That is our first step. Now T, you can write it as FT dash E dash. Then F can be written as ID and T dash can be written as T dash derives epsilon. So epsilon you need not write here, you can write E itself. Next step, E can be written as ID plus TE dash. So here ID plus T is again written as FT dash E dash. Again ID plus this F can be written as ID, and this we'll show it in the next step. ID plus ID, and this T can be written as star FT dash E dash. Further ID plus ID star F can be written as ID T dash E dash. This T dash can be written as ID plus ID star ID T dash to epsilon, and E dash derives epsilon. So you need not write anything there. So here we have obtained the W, the string which was required. Now constructing parse tree, we would get E derives T and E dash, and from T we have F and T dash, and from F we write it as ID, and from T dash you write it as epsilon, and E dash when split you get plus T and E dash. So this T is again split as F and T dash. This F is written as ID, and this T dash changes to star F and T dash. This F again changes to ID, this T dash changes to epsilon, and this E changes to epsilon. So our next step would be to write the W value, right? So here if you join ID plus ID star and ID, so you get W is equal to ID plus ID star ID. So this is the W value. So we have done with our first step. Our second step is to find the first and follow. So in my previous video I have explained how to find the first and follow of the same set of productions. So do refer that video. Here I'll be writing the first and follow directly. The first and follow for given grammar is, so here I'll write all the non-terminals here, E dash, E dash, T dash, and F. Here I'll write first, here I'll write follow. So let me construct a table here. So here I have constructed the table depicting the first and follow of all the non-terminals. So our next step is to obtain the predictive parsing table. So here for the step 3, that is to obtain the predictive parsing table, I have written down the steps for a construction of predictive parsing table for any production of the form A derives alpha. So let me draw a table for step 3. The table would comprise of production, followed by that the first of alpha, and then we have the predictive parsing table entries, that is m of a comma small a should be equal to a derives alpha. So let me draw a table for this first. Now I'll be starting with the first production, that is E derives TE dash. So comparing this with A derives alpha, because it should be compared with the form A derives alpha. So I would get A derives alpha. So I would get first of TE dash, that is first of alpha here is T. So first of T, from the table we know that first of T is open bracket and ID, that is open parenthesis and ID. So here I can write it as m of E comma open parenthesis ID is equal to E derives TE dash. So this was for our first production. Moving on to our second production, I can write it as E dash derives plus TE dash. So first of this entire thing is taken as alpha, right? So first of plus TE dash. So first of plus would be considered. So first of plus, we know that first of non-production is always the same. So here m of E comma plus E dash comma plus, sorry, E dash comma plus would be equal to E dash derives plus TE dash. Moving on to the next production, that is E dash derives epsilon. So in the case of epsilon, we know that follow of, so if you look at the second condition here, you have to find follow of A, that is A derives epsilon. So follow of E dash would be equal to follow of E dash, you know, it is dollar and open parenthesis. So here m of E dash dollar open parenthesis would be equal to E dash derives epsilon. So we are done with the E dash production. Now let's look into the next production, that is T derives FT dash. This is easy, taking this entire thing as alpha. So first of FT dash, that is first of F is open bracket and ID, right? So here we can write m of T comma open bracket comma ID is equal to T derives FT dash. So moving on to the next production, that is T dash derives star FT dash. So it is similar to E dash derives plus T E dash, that is first of star would be equal to star itself. So m of T dash comma star is equal to T dash derives star FT dash. Moving on to the next production, that is T dash derives epsilon. So comparing it with A derives epsilon, in that case we have to write follow of T dash. Follow of T dash is plus dollar in close parenthesis. So here m of so here it would be m of T dash comma plus dollar open parenthesis would be equal to T dash derives epsilon. So we are done with the T dash production. Now let's look into the last production, that is F derives open parenthesis E. So for the production, F derives open parenthesis close parenthesis E enclosed in open and close parenthesis. Here we have the terminal. So first of open parenthesis would be the same. Yes. So here we can write m of F comma open parenthesis is equal to F derives E, and on the other side we have F derives ID. So first of ID would be equal to ID itself. So m of F comma ID would give f derives id. So here we are done with steps, constructing steps. We have obeyed all the steps and we have constructed predictive parsing table. So we have obtained all the values which needs to be filled in the table. Now let's construct the table here. So firstly here there would be the terminals on this side, that is plus star open bracket close bracket id and dollar, and on the other hand we have e non-terminals, that is e dash t dash and f. From the above table, I'll start filling the values in the PPT here, predictive parsing table. So for m of e comma open bracket, we have e derives te dash. So e comma id also we have e derives te dash. And here if you look at it, e dash comma plus we have e derives plus te dash, and on this side we have e dash comma dollar in close bracket. So e dash comma dollar we have e dash derives epsilon, and on open bracket we have epsilon, and e dash comma dollar we have e dash derives epsilon, and on this side t comma open bracket we have t derives ft dash, t comma id we have t derives ft dash, and on t dash we have t dash derives epsilon, t dash derives star ft dash, and here we have t dash derives epsilon, and t dash on dollar we have t dash derives epsilon. Now moving on to f and open bracket we have f derives e, and here we have f derives id. So if you look at this, there are multiple entries in the there are multiple entries in the PPT, but there are no multiple entries in the PPT, so the grammar is said to be LL1. So now our next step would be to show the sequence of moves made by the parser on W value. So for the next step, that is to show the sequence of moves made by the parser on the string, I'll be taking a stack input and output. So with the help of this PPT, I'll be showing the sequence here. So firstly, we need to write $e. E represents the start symbol, right? And here let me write the W value, that is W is equal to ID plus ID star ID. So here it would be ID plus ID star ID followed by a dollar. So here in the stack, before the start symbol there would be a dollar, and in input after the string there would be a dollar. So that's how the comparison starts. So our first step would be to compare E with ID. So E comma ID, is there any production existing of the form E comma ID? E comma ID, yes, E derives TE dash. So M of E comma ID, we get E derives TE dash. Yes. So our next step would be, so here we have got TE dash, right? So whatever we have got here, we need to reverse it and substitute in this value, whichever is being compared. So whichever is being clubbed. So here TE dash could be written as E dash T. And this would be the same ID plus ID star ID dollar. So T would be compared with ID. So M of T comma ID. So M of T comma ID. T comma ID. We have T derives FT dash. So FT dash is there. Reverse it. So $E, in the place of T, write T dash and F. So here we have ID plus ID star ID dollar. So F and ID needs to be considered. So M of F comma ID can be written as T derives ID. F comma ID can be written as T derives ID. So in the place of F, replace ID. So $E T dash ID, and here also ID plus ID star ID dollar. So whenever you have the same values here we have ID and here also we have ID. So in that case you can pop out that particular symbol or element. So here you are going to pop ID. So in the next step there won't be any ID here. So you write $E T dash, and here you have plus ID star ID dollar. So you'll compare T dash and plus. T dash on plus gives T dash derives M of T dash on plus gives T dash derives epsilon. So in the place of T dash write epsilon. $E, so you write epsilon or not, it doesn't make a difference. So in this case you can keep it aside. So write the same plus ID star ID dollar. So you'll be comparing E with plus. E on plus, sorry, this is E dash. So E dash on plus gives M of E dash on plus gives E dash derives plus T dash. So plus T dash, reverse it and write. So $E dash T plus, here also plus ID star ID dollar. So you can see the same symbols here. In that case, pop it out. So our next step would be $E dash T, and here ID star ID dollar. So you'll compare, so you'll check for M of T on ID. So T on ID you have T derives FT dash. So you'll write $E, in the place of T you write T dash F. T dash F, you compare it with ID star ID dollar. So F on ID gives M of F on ID gives F derives ID. So in the place of F write ID. So $E T dash ID, here also ID star ID dollar. So if you see the same symbols are here, so pop ID. So our next step would be $E T dash on star ID dollar. T dash on star would give T dash on star would give T dash M of T dash on star would give T dash derives star F T dash. So writing this here again. So $E T dash F star ID dollar. So star same symbol, so pop star. Next is $E T dash F ID dollar. Comparing F and ID, you get M of F on ID gives F derives ID. So you write $E T dash ID dollar. In this case, same symbol, so pop ID. Here we have $E T dash on dollar. T dash on dollar gives epsilon. M of T dash on dollar gives T dash derives epsilon. In the case of epsilon, you need not write anything here. So $E on epsilon. So E on epsilon, M of E on dollar gives E on dollar gives. So M of E on dollar gives E derives epsilon. E dash derives epsilon. So this E would get cancelled. So in that case, so this is all E dash here. Okay, so here we have dollar and here also dollar is remaining. So this is the output state. If you get dollar on the stack and on the input side also, that means that our parsing is successful. So firstly we have proved that the given grammar is LL1, and secondly we have shown the sequence made by the parser on the given input string, and we have also derived that the parsing is successful. I hope you have understood how to check if the given grammar is LL1 and show the sequence. So if you have any doubts, do let me know in the comments and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.